other people will say this, you know, we'll look back at these days as the dark ages of drug policy, the stigmatization that the war on drugs has caused people around the world. But when we look back, we will be shameful that we allowed, we colluded in a policy regime that is so harmful. And if things stay the same in this field, they're going to get worse, guaranteed. The police will tell us that, you know what, 10 years ago there were, you know, 10 or 14 organized crime groups in BC, and now I think we're up to 139. And they make a big deal about this. Wow, look what's happening. Well, figure it out. Figure it out. Look at the cash flow. You know, look at these 23-year-old kids from Surrey and Abbotsford. Yeah, driving Hummers, because we've passed legislation in BC now which makes wearing body armor and, you know, doing stuff to your cars where you put the bulletproof doors and glass and all that sort of stuff. So they're moving to make all that stuff illegal, which means there'll be a whole bunch of body shops and businesses that specialize in quietly making your car machine gun proof. Very, very fortunate to have Perry Kendall, who's been a real backstop at a very high level in the provincial government to support a lot of this stuff. And so let's get that out of the discussion. People use drugs. We are a drug-using society. We gobble drugs down. Most of them are legal drugs, many of them, and we like them. This is the Centre Dialogue downtown, where we have lots of public discussions. And I think most of the speakers that are speaking to you today have spent hours in this room, various conferences, talking about a whole range of issues. But one of the successes that we've had in Vancouver is we have promoted public dialogue on these issues because they are complex. They're really complex. So, you know, change is hard, and it's not going to happen without a lot of talk. You're not going to learn well if you feel you don't belong. They belong. We belong. You belong. I belong. We all belong here on the planet doing whatever, struggling through our little life-ettes the best we can. But we belong. And if that's not present, then we don't learn. And self-determination emerges out of those competencies. And what does criminalization do? Criminalization crushes that. Criminalization says you do not belong. And so here we are with some of the most ill people in the country in Vancouver who are injection drug users, and we want to help you. But at the same time, the message they're getting is that they don't belong. They don't belong anywhere. We have an injection site. Great. To start. There's 700 square feet in North America where you can walk in with some drugs and a needle, a syringe, and you belong. That's 700, the only place that I can think of in North America where you actually belong, where people will welcome you and they will be with you as you inject drugs. In my sense, all of the industry of drug treatment is trying to help people gain a sense of belonging, while all of the force of our public policy apparatus is telling them they don't belong. So harm reduction is absolutely critical, because what harm reduction does, as in the case of syringe exchange and outreach and places like Insight, it tries to restore an opportunity for people to belong. And that's why harm reduction is so powerful in people's lives. You know, how many times do people who work in the addictions feel heard, you know, you're the first person who actually sat down and talked to me, or you're the first person who asked me to come into your office and have a conversation, or you're the first person that bought me a coffee in a long time. That's what harm reduction does. It's really powerful, powerful, powerful. And people think harm reduction is giving up needles or methadone or what. Harm reduction to me is developing relationships with people. So this is not new, and you're going to hear a lot more in great detail from people like Mark Hayden and Kirk and others who are really the big thinkers in this area. The Senate committee report looked at the issue of criminalization. Canadian Centre on Substance Abuse report, even this fairly conservative organization has allowed to be on their website the criminalization of illicit drug users under the current drug control legislation in Canada stands in stark opposition to the objectives of public health, and in fact contributes to many of the drug-related problems that harm reduction tries to alleviate. The Auditor General, with drugs as its primary source of revenue, organized crime has intimidated police officers, judges, juries, correctional officers. Such intimidation is a direct threat to Canada's philosophy of peace, order, and good government. So this is not new for people in high office, these kinds of discussions. Guys, they're back. They don't go away. These guys do not go away, no matter what you do, I guarantee it. But this is where we're at, okay? In every other field of endeavor that I've been involved in, adult education, adult literacy, working on the docks in Halifax, working in the mines in the north, you got a problem, you're encouraged to think outside the box, right? But not in the area of drug policy. And I learned this through working at the city and in a very conservative sort of environment where we inched forward the harm reduction stuff. And later on, we started to talk about the criminalization and the drug regulation stuff. But basically, the minute you get a little too far, you're branded as a legalizer, as someone who wants to destroy society, have every child in school on some sort of drug, illegal drug, or not even legal drug. You're demonized for speaking the unspoken. And that's not helpful. It's not helpful. It doesn't unleash creativity. And that's what we need to do in this country. We need to get our best minds together and say, okay, we tried this system of prohibition of drugs. And we can debate whether it's worked or not, but we have the evidence that it really hasn't worked. There's lots of people suffering from it, and there's lots of people getting rich. So let's get our smartest cops and our smartest activists and our smartest pharmacy people and folks who work in this area together and come up with another system and come up with an implementation plan that is modest, incremental, and aims to reduce and eliminate many of the harms from our public policy frameworks. The box, of course, is prohibition. It's old, it's tired, it's open, it doesn't really work, it doesn't hold much, it's been around for a long time. So let's get rid of it. Just to notice that we don't really want to. 30 years ago, I might be smoking because I'm nervous. Half of you would be smoking. There'd be an ashtray right here on the desk, and we'd just all be having a great time. We'd look like academics, we'd be smoking cigarettes, and it's hard to believe that world existed. We got on planes, we smoked everywhere. But basically, what we're saying is we want to, bring things into the middle where we have more control over them. And we're arguing that regulating substances appropriately. We're not going to regulate heroin like we regulate cannabis, like we regulate tobacco, like we regulate. Every substance will be different, and you'll hear a lot more about that from folks here. No drug is made safer left in the hands of organized criminals and unregulated dealers. That's a quote from a police officer in North Wales, Richard Brunstrom. That sort of says it. And prohibition is not a drug strategy, it's a political strategy. So it doesn't work to control drugs, but it does work in the political sense. It works globally. It keeps countries under the thumb of Captain America up until recently. And I'm hopeful that the states will do something. I think Obama has not, signaled a lot of change, but he's taken his foot off the gas. The war on drugs. Let's reduce harm from tobacco. We can do it. That's sort of a takeoff on the United Nations. Let's have a drug-free world. We can do it, or something. But how do we do it with tobacco? We regulate the crap out of tobacco. I've worked at the city. I think cities have a real leadership role to play in this discussion, because it's a bottom-up discussion. It's not going to start at the top. Informed public discussion is critical. We need to build on evidence. Political and institutional leadership and courage is necessary, so our academic leadership, our public health leadership. Leadership is a huge issue in this field. It's not going to happen with a strong leadership. And there are choices to be made: the status quo or public health approach, public safety approach, human rights approach. And